Uh, This is Tuesday, April 13th, the Willington Board of Education meeting. It's a virtual meeting. And the first order of business is to call the meeting to order. Next item will be Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would stand, we will recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Phil, do we have anyone that's present to speak? That's the next item on our agenda.
We only have one visitor with us tonight, and I'm just going to call her out because she's the only one. Sarah Smith, if you just want to raise your hand, or you can. Yeah, now we have two more visitors.
Hey.
Nope. The two that just came in were at public to speak. If you want to pop your camera on and say anything, just let us know and we can unmute you, or you should be able to raise your hand and let us know. All right, there's your answer, Herb.
Okay, we'll proceed. Next item is item 4 on the agenda, the chairman's report. There are a couple of things I'd like to mention, and I'll be fairly brief. The state is working, our state legislators are working on education bills, and they're still in the proposed state. Description of the education bills kind of reflects their intent rather than their statutory language. This description of the bills moving forward in the legislative process, therefore it could change. Depends on the lobbyists and educational people who are interested, including CABE. Hearings are now taking place on a wide range of educational issues, and I think we'd have to have a special meeting to go over all of them, because I don't know how many there are, probably hundreds. But anyway, they have ECS and distance learning, special ed, financial literacy, hiring minority teachers, tuition to other high schools, SROs, social and emotional learning. I think there are several bills and address that. And of course, they throw in quite a few task forces, which they never take away, I guess, but they serve a good purpose. Equity is an important issue in the state, anything cultural or racist. They have a lot of things of that. And also, of course, besides the task forces, they have a lot of mandates that they like to implement. And as I say, the legislative process is important to us because they decide a lot of things we do. We don't have freedom of movement in every area. So if there is one that you're interested in particular, you can probably go to one of their hearings and say a few words in favor of or opposed to one of their issues. Another interesting development has been the selectmen had a special meeting last night, April 12th, and the topic was the budget. And I don't know if all of you are aware of the fact that there have been quite a few changes relative to that. Region 19 budget referendum, which was scheduled for May 4th, will take place. I don't know whether there'll be a hearing before that or not, but Region 19 will vote on May 4th. The Board of Ed budget and the town budget, the selectmen's budget, the Board of Ed won't have any changes. The change situation does not affect us, I don't believe. But the selectmen's budget may have some modifications and changes. So, and they're going to vote on the board budget and the selectmen's budget at a later date, and there may not even be a hearing necessary. However, because of state guidelines, I haven't seen them. And the meeting itself was very short and covered a lot of ground. And Erica did a great job in researching this. And there are state guidelines, and I think the town is going to get some money from the state. And this money will be used to reduce the selectmen's budget. And which means that they're going to have to meet and decide what areas they're going to reduce and modify. And it's going to take time to do that. So they're going to have a number of meetings, maybe among themselves and with the agencies in town that are affected by it. So they're going to review their budget and probably alter it. And then it proceeds through the hearings with the Board of Finance and things of that kind. So the revised Board of Selectmen budget probably will not be voted on until either May 17th or June 8th. I don't think they finalize the date, but it will be later on. So that I just wanted to let you know about that. And we're tagging along because we're included in the overall budget when it's presented to the town. So, but it does not affect us except for the date upon which our particular budget will be voted on. But it has to be done before June 30th. So, but I just wanted you to know that it's going through the same process that it went through previously, and there'll be a referendum. I don't know whether they'll have any hearings on the budgets again. I don't think so. Probably won't be necessary. But that's about where it is on that. I can't think of anything else really at this particular time. Oh yeah, one other thing. Maybe if you agree, Phil, I'd like to add the Finance Committee to the agenda. I make a motion that we add the Finance Committee to the agenda under 8C.
Did you make a motion? Do you need a second?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Oh, it's seconded.
Say the number and letter again for me.
It'll be 8C. And it will deal with the SBHC. Okay. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, we need to vote. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to vote now.
Sorry.
You'll have to excuse me. My voice is not, I have a hoarse voice. And I don't know how long I'll be able to talk. But anyway, being on the sidelines, ready to take over here. Okay, we're going to vote now on the motion, just to add that to the agenda, that's all. All those in favor of adding Finance Committee to the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So voted. Very good. Okay, we're down to communications. I don't have any.
The only thing we got was a random FOI request, which is when we Googled it, it was an FOI request that is nationwide. They were looking for our contracts for school messenger, a couple different things. I mean, we Googled it and it popped right up. So we weren't the only ones to get it. It was, you know, it's simple stuff. We just made the copies and sent it out. So.
Okay, good. Okay, item 6 on the agenda is a superintendent's report. A through I, there's quite a list there.
Yeah, the first one's a fun one. So the monologue competition, Mr. Phillips held a monologue competition. This was part of their virtual drama series. This was held on March 19th. The kids recorded their monologues and then submitted them. They put them into a video, and it's about 40 minutes long. I can share out the link if you want. I want to take a few minutes and just show the winner to you. This was judged by 3 impartial judges from outside of the district, so no pressure from our teacher to do that. The winner was Lucas Anderson. He performed Harry's monologue from "This Phone Will Explode at the Tone." I gotta show you his 3-minute bit here. It was tremendous. I'm just gonna share my screen for a second here. This is pretty quick.
My name is Lucas Anderson, and I will be doing Harry's monologue from "This Phone Will Explode at the Tone."
Can you hear him?
Yeah.
Hi, Anne. This is Harry. Yeah, that's right, Harry from English class. Well, you know about the dance on Friday night? I was wondering if you'd like to be my date? You would? That's great. Okay, I'll pick you up at 7. Bye. Now, all I have to do is actually dial her number, and I'll have this down pat. Although I've asked the dial tone out so many times, maybe I'll ask her to the dance. Hi, everyone. This is my date, the dial tone. This is silly. Okay, I can do this. Millions of guys do it every day. I mean, the population would seriously decrease if guys didn't ask girls on dates. And vice versa. Oh, geez, I could get into trouble over that. What if she thinks I'm a sexist pig because I want to ask her out on a date? I'm much too young for all of this. At least I don't have to see her face when she rejects me. This way, she can politely turn me down, and we can both hang up, and I will quietly bang my head on the receiver all night. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone! Ah! What's the worst she can say? She could say no. Would that be so bad? Would that be so bad? It would be so bad! It would ruin my existence! As little of an existence that I have, it would ruin it completely! Okay, maybe some push-ups. I'll do some push-ups to get the blood running to my head. Hi, Anne. Would you go to the dance with me? If you need some convincing, feel my manly arms. I do 100 push-ups every day. Or maybe 2. Enough! It's probably busy. That's it. It's busy. I've got nothing to worry about. Picking up the phone. Dialing her number. Oh my gosh! It's ringing!
So that was the winner. But I gotta tell you, they were tremendous, and the time and energy that they put into these, I mean, we watched them in my office afterwards. I was showing Brenda, and they were just tremendous. And so my hat's off to these students. Hats off to Jason. Just a tremendous job with some fun things and trying to keep our kids engaged during, a pandemic and doing virtual things. It was great. And so, but boy, that guy just knocked it out of the park. It was fantastic. So congrats to Lucas.
Yes.
Let me give you an update on enrollment. So our enrollment right now at Center School is 210 students. We have 189 students learning on campus, and we have 21 students, 10% we're getting there, that are fully remote. Our current enrollment at Hall is 193 students. We have 157 students learning on campus and 36 students that are learning fully remote. It's the first time we've been under 20% all year long. So we are creeping back. Students are definitely coming back, which is great. If you average the two, it's about 14% of our students are fully remote right now. And that's going to be interesting to see where that goes in the future, because if you've seen some of the other states around us, they've actually already said there will be no remote learning next year. Herb just mentioned legislation. There is some things in the legislation to allow remote learning next year. We don't know if they're going to go through or not, so we will see. Questions on enrollment? I'm going to keep cranking. So the current CIP projects, I just wanted to give you a quick update on where we're at. The boiler valves and pumps that need to be done at Hall School, that's already done. It came in right on budget, so that's all taken care of. The roof projects, I'll give you a separate update in a minute. The painting of the pillars in the front kind of cleanup at Hall School at that entrance. It was interesting. Last week, we had a walkthrough as part of the roof project. And while we were there, we were talking to the architect about it. And he said, do you realize a portion of that project it qualifies under the roofing project and can be done? Not all of it, but a portion of it. And that also means it's reimbursable. So his recommendation while he was there, he said, you know, the fascia, there's a good portion of that. They recommended us to wait. They said, do the roofing project, and as soon as the roofing project is complete, then do the remainder of the work. That way you don't have, you know, see what you can get done through the roofing project, and you don't have to worry about if you clean something up and then they ding it, you've just repaired it. Now, the only issue is that money right now for the project, for the painting, is in Fund 930. It's in capital expenditures, and you would need to just be able to tell me to go to the Board of Finance and request that they move that money to capital projects, which is what Donna recommends. And basically what that would do is it would extend the money beyond June 30th. If they don't transfer it to capital projects, then it has to be spent by June 30th, which means we really need to do the project before the roof. So I just need some quick feedback on that, which way you want me to go.
I think that sounds like the most prudent way to handle it, since the people who know suggested that you wait, and it doesn't even if it ends up not, part of it not qualifying, it doesn't make sense to do something that might get damaged and then have to redo it or have it look not its best. So I'm okay with that.
I think it's great to be able to preserve as much of CIP money as possible too. If we can turn that into reimbursable money, that would be great.
I agree. Oh, Herb, you're muted. Let me unmute you. There you go.
So, does anyone else have a comment, or are you okay with that?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I will just put in that request to Board of Finance.
Okay.
Thank you. The last item that was on CIP is the heating project, the unit ventilators at Center School. Those are the individual boxes. So we have an RFP that has to go out for those, which we're pulling together now, and that'll be out soon. That should take care of all the projects that are out there right now. There is still some money in the security camera line, which I'll get into in a minute about security cameras, because there's more grant money that we're eligible for that's going to be coming in. I just counted before this meeting, we've got 16 grants this year. So we've been doing a lot of grant writing in my office. Mm-hmm. So those are all the CIP projects. The item D, the DOT and local transportation capital improvement projects, that lot SIP project. You may have seen our land use agent, Mike D'Amato. He's presented at a couple meetings now, talking about the large sidewalk grant that was received. It's close. This is the $1 million grant. It's a big one. This is still in the works. There's two pieces to it that impact Hall. And it's looking like we're going to see the installation of a handicap accessible ramp on the parking lot side of across the street from Hall School, which is fantastic because right now it's not accessible. And so that ramp would actually run parallel with Route 32. So you don't just come down, pitch down and go into the road. It would go do a zigzag along Route 32, and then you would turn and cross. There's a plan for an island in the middle there as a pedestrian protection. And then once you cross onto the building side, there will be a new ramp put in there so you can drive a wheelchair up. So that's good news because obviously that's not accessible right now. That is the DOT portion of the project. And then eventually the lot SIP portion of the project would extend the sidewalks, improve the sidewalks at Hall and extend it all the way down towards the church and potentially beyond. So it's quite a project. It's still in the works, but it's looking positive. And so that's going to help us. That does not impact our CIP project that is in the for Hall School parking lot. So any questions about that?
I have a question. You said that they're going to add an island in the middle of part of 32. Are they going to have to widen the road? Because isn't it just one lane each way there, or is there extra shoulder or something?
So they're engineering it. So from what I understand, there's potential for multiple islands. The final drawing is not out yet, but basically what it does is it's one of the tools they use to slow traffic down. And for pedestrian crossing, they give you a protection for a narrow island. And I don't believe they're going to have to widen it, Donna, based upon, but it's all their engineers, DOT and lot SIP, and it's a state, job. So they have to do all that work to determine what they need to do to get it through there.
How wide?
So they're still engineering it then. So we
Correct.
don't, it was about 6 feet long and 2 or 3 wide, or?
What the island
Itself, yeah.
I don't know yet. I've asked Mike, as soon as the plans are done, I just want a drawing of it so I could give you a picture of it.
Yeah.
So once I have that, I will share it with you. I just wanted to give you some preliminary information of kind of where it's at. It's still going. And it's actually good news because to put in a ramp on the Board of Ed dollars would be big bucks.
Yeah.
So.
Donna, you had a question? Yeah, sorry to butt in on you there.
I'm really having trouble. How big is the island that they're talking? Like, did they give you an idea?
I can't even take a guess, Donna. I don't know. I don't know that it's super wide. It's I mean, for picture a Tylenol capsule. I mean, that kind of shape. If you just laid it down, that's the type of island it would be. From what I understand, they've done this in numerous locations, and it's meant for pedestrians. So they would put those in where there's crosswalks, and it basically provides you security that if you get to the middle and the car starts coming, that you have some protection.
Well, hopefully it'll work out.
Yep. So I will let you know as soon as I get a picture of it. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Okay,
You're welcome.
good.
Item E, the USDA meal service. So the Department of Agriculture, they extended their free service through September 30th, 2021, which is great for us because it gives us a lot more flexibility about serving summer meals. And that's important. And the reason why it's important is I've been working with our food service director, Stephanie Knight. We're trying to figure out the feasibility of serving meals this summer. Not doing it every day, but doing, a pickup and drop off where you can get multiple meals at one shot. And we could do it without taxing our program. And so that's we're trying to determine that, but that was extended out to September 30th to help families. And so we're going to try and take advantage of that for our families. So we're working on that. The TOB, the town office building phone bill. This is an interesting one. We got the phone bill, and there was some international calls that had been made in the late evenings. Well, we had someone gain access to one of our phone numbers in the town office building, and international calls are made. Let's just say the bill was quite expensive. It occurred when the building was closed. So we asked about that, and obviously it's being disputed. It doesn't impact the Board of Ed right now, but I wanted to share it because we share phone lines. I mean, if they could impact and hack one of those phone lines, they could get ours. And so we've changed our level of security. We've worked with a phone company on that, and it's really come out of the First Select Woman's office. And now we also are blocking international calls. So people can't, if they do hack in, they can't have that. And that's one of the things that to dispute the bill, something that we had to do. So FYI on that one. Item G, the COVID school operations. We have had a couple of positive cases, COVID cases since the last meeting, several situations where community members have been close contacts and need to quarantine over the last month. Obviously, we can continue to implement our mitigation measures to keep our students and staff safe. We do continue to learn more about this. The importance of masking in our buildings is probably the #1 mitigation strategy that we have, and we'll continue to do that. We did have our second vaccine clinic last Tuesday. We had over 100 staff and bus drivers get the second dose of the Moderna vaccine. I will tell you that we had about 25% of that 100 have a pretty significant reaction. And so I was one of those folks. I was down and out. And so what we did, we had planned automatically for a remote learning day on Wednesday because we had concerns about this. I'm glad we did that. And then staff had to notify us by 5 p.m. on Wednesday if they were going to be able to teach the next day, because obviously we couldn't get 20 subs. And so we still had a significant number of people that thought they would be out the next day. So we did a remote learning day on Thursday as well. And then we returned on Friday. And basically what happened was anyone in a teaching capacity, they had a very specific job to record lessons and post them. So if they were ill, they could post their lessons and still not be counted sick because the learning was there. Paras, everybody had an assignment that they had to do, and if they couldn't do it, then they would, we had worked out some deal with them. Either had to take sick time or to work additional hours when they come back. But it was all done through the union and went very well. And so I'm happy that's passed us, and hopefully we won't have to have any significant staff quarantining beyond this point. Our SR2 grants, and again, this falls under school operations, is due on Monday. We'll be turning it in by the end of this week. That grant is about $260,000. It's the grant that we use to offset the budget for utility staff, to pay for utility staff next year. But we're also, and obviously not everything's eligible here. You have to use that grant for what things are eligible, but we are updating the Wi-Fi in both buildings. This was a recommendation of Novus, and we also had money through E-Rate, which we were going to have to pay the balance of. Well, now we're updating our Wi-Fi with E-Rate funds that we, don't come from the town, and from grant funds that don't come from the town. So that'll be good for our buildings. We're getting iPads for our kindergarten and first grade students to impact learning, and we'll have some money for professional development. We're, all of these funds are to address learning loss, technology infrastructure, school safety around cleaning, and social emotional learning. So I will, and Herb put finance on the budget tonight. I'll add a little bit to that when we do the finance committee meeting, I'll add this grant to it so you can see all of the things that are on there.
Okay.
And the last thing around the grants is we're still processing. I mean, it's a ton of work out of the business office. I'm going to be honest with you, in my office, of matching up and making sure everything's lined up in the grant system. So if we're ever audited, we're still applying the CRF funds, which was one of the first grants, the ESSER 1 grant. We're still applying the funds and making sure we have the trail for all of the items and that they qualified, and we have the backup if we were ever audited. So we have all those things. Last thing under COVID operations is our custodial crew in Public Works. They're going to be putting up our tents, our quote unquote circus tents. They already started at Center School, but they're going to be doing it within this next week. Hopefully we're done with snow. As soon as I said do it, they put snow in the forecast. So again, those tents will be a third location at each school for mass breaks, for outdoor learning. And you know, our Public Works crew and our maintenance crew is going to be doing that on vacation. So big thanks to them. And then the last thing is we'll be doing a survey for our families and our staff regarding next year. We're not going to do it though until we have more information about what we can and cannot do, or will be required or not required to do next year. Questions about COVID operations? Okay, the roof replacement. So the grant application is in for both roof projects. We did a little dance in my office on Friday because it was a ton of work. Brenda Scott Pellman, who's from Colliers, and Silver Petroselli, the architect, and I reviewed the application several times. Obviously, we had to do 2 of them. We were happy with what we saw, and we did confirm that they received them at the state level. I saw Scott today. He's going to be reaching out to the state this week to try and keep our momentum going and for a summer application. We had the environmentalists come out last week with the architect, which is when we had the conversation about the front of Hall School. They were doing their core samples. They were drilling the roof to make sure there's no hazardous material. And Silktown Roofing did all the repairing. They're the ones that did our patching last time. So they did all our patching. That falls into some of the reimbursables. This is the interesting piece that kind of got me is when we were doing the application, one of the issues we learned about was we needed this specific SCG. It's a form, SCG 9000. It's basically a letter from the state for our school security plan. And we were looking in the office for it. We couldn't find it. So we called the office and they said they've never seen our school security plan. And we said, we've sent it every year for 5 years along with our drills. What do you mean? And they said, we have no record of it. Thankfully, we kept our USPS receipts to show that we had sent them. And so we could prove it. And so basically what the answer from them was, well, you sent it to the main headquarters and it looks like main headquarters has never sent it to us. So it's like a branch. So I'm so glad we could prove that, because that could have been very challenging. So yes, we've had a school security plan since we've been required to. We've submitted it. And so they did a letter for us that's specific, and it looks like they've had to do this before, that was submitted with our application to the state saying that they hadn't fully reviewed our plan yet. However, that it was not our fault, it was their fault, and they owned it. And the only caveat to that is we have to have our plan fully approved before we get any reimbursement for the roof project, which is fine. I think we'll have the school security plan fully state approved by the end of May, because I've been working closely with them since we found that out. So that was a little bit of a shocker, but I'm glad we found out. And now we know the direct route and not to send it to someplace else where it's just probably sitting in a corner.
That's good. It's good news.
Yeah.
It's a good idea to keep documents and have a paper trail like that. Boy.
We did. I'm glad we had those receipts, because I didn't want to, without it's like, it's your word versus mine. And that's why we did it. Any other questions about the roof replacement?
Any comments? Anyone? I guess not, Phil. You can move on.
All right, so staffing changes. So one of our longtime staff members, Nico Semerzakis, he has been a paraprofessional. He's been a custodian for us. He was a special education teacher now. He's actually accepted a job in Summers and is moving on. And obviously, tough job to fill. He's done some wonderful things for us. He works super hard for his students. And I will tell you, I was down at behind Hall School the other day, putting up the kindergarten registration signs. And I took my dogs for a walk on the trail. And he was back along the river with a prior group of students who are well into high school years. And they were doing some trail improvements together. And it just speaks to his connections with kids and how they seek him out. And that's the type of individual that we want in our district, and just big thanks to him. So good luck to Nico. We had letters of resignation from Zoe McAvoy, who's a paraprofessional through EastCon, and then Ronnie Gainey, who is with us as a utility staff member. So we wish them all the best. And then the good news is we did hire a social worker for Center School. We welcomed Emily Nason. She's coming from Manchester with some experience, school experience, which is hard to find. Yesterday was her first day, so welcome to Emily. That is my entire report. Whew.
Yes.
Any questions?
What an agenda there. I don't see any hands up, Phil.
All right.
Looks like we can move on to the financial report for 2020-2021 budget.
So the first financial report that was sent out was actually like just a draft notes. Sorry,
Yeah.
the wrong one. You should have gotten the second one with an update. So if you look at program 1, there were funds that Donna returned back, which is typical. We move funds when someone leaves, social worker left, we move those funds out of encumbered back into the balance. And obviously it'll be moved again now that we have hired a social worker. So it looks like there's a bunch of money there. It'll move back in. And don't forget, we also had budgeted for a third kindergarten teacher that's not, that we did not fill intentionally because the enrollment at the time did not support it. Really no change in program 2. Program 3, I will tell you, this is the program I meet with Marcia McGinley on regularly. We have those budget meetings because of the volatility of special ed. I am feeling pretty good today about special ed right now. As of April 13th, that could change. What I'll tell you is that our first round of excess costs came in. We're getting more than we expected, which is good news. It is not reflected in that balance remaining. We got our first check of about 103,000, and we're expecting total of about 140, which is great. And again, that's the excess cost when a student is a certain amount over the per pupil expenditure, you get a certain percentage back. And so that's good news. So that program 3 is looking healthy. Program 4, we have now done the credit. I had mentioned, I think early on in the year, that we had decreased ridership because of COVID. We had put that out there, and because we could do the runs with a fewer number of buses, the bus company agreed to take off half a bus, which sounds weird, but it's part of the shared routes and with the pre-K routes midday. So 0.5 off. So that was in the negative last time you saw that. And so it's come back, and we're waiting on a reimbursement from Region 19, which is great. Program 5, health services, is looking good. Really no change in program 6 or 7. We still, in program 8, it's in the negative, but we still have to apply ESSER 1 funds, and that's really some of those cleaning supplies. That's what's in that grant. And so that'll bring that back out of the negative. Program 9 is in the negative, but again, there's about, let's see, 17, there's about $30,000 of ESSER 2 funds that have not been applied yet, because we haven't even submitted the grant yet. but the money will be there. It'll go into that account. So that'll be out of the negative. And then really the last thing out of fringe is that final notice payment was assigned. So at this point in the year, we're looking good. I have a budget meeting with my administrative team tomorrow, and we'll be talking about kind of making that final push for purchases for the remainder of the year to get through the rest of the year. And so I'm hoping when we come back in May, we'll have a good sense of where we're at. If there's any projects left that you want to recommend. I do have some smaller heating fixes, things like that I've been holding. So I will have a list for you just to say, here's some of the things we're going to go through. Questions about the budget summary?
Yes, on item 6, under curriculum and professional development, we seem to have a substantial amount of money that hasn't been encumbered there, a balance of 27,000. Will we be spending some of this money for staff or curriculum development during the summer? How are we going to handle that?
So we have to do it by June 30th.
They are working on their curriculum, are they? And if they're doing it on their own time, we probably would be paying them.
Right. Yeah, some of it falls within their stipends right now, Herb. But that's one of the things that we have to talk about as an admin team, is what that's going to look like. We will spend some of that money for sure. One of the things we're looking at for next year is we've learned, and Tracy, you've probably seen this in your piece of the business world of education, is we've learned a great deal about reading research within the last year. More than probably we've known, and just the scientific research that is all kind of coming together, and people saying, no, don't do that, do this, and this is what we know. And it's mainly connected to brain research. And there's happens to be one of the best organizations and professionals happens to be out of our state. And so we are actually trying to connect with them to see if we can use some of these funds for training, particularly in our elementary teachers, because those are the critical years of reading, and to help identify if there's any gaps in our curriculum, and really training teachers of how to teach reading. And this is kind of one of the head scratchers that drives me crazy, is that you graduate now as an elementary major and you have 2 classes of how to teach reading, because you're a generalist. And so, it's hard to expect those folks to be really strong reading teachers. And that's something that we need to, if we can change that through that professional development, that's something that we want to do.
Now we're going to spend some of our funds for staff development, and the area I was thinking about is in the COVID-19 area, where all these new programs and all the new things that are taking place there. And the staff have done a marvelous job in coping with this, but there's apparently a lot of training that can go into their development, because this is probably going to continue to somewhat for this year especially, and into next year, even though everyone's have a vaccine and stuff like that.
Right.
It's still going to be there, and we're going to be coping with it.
One of the amazing things is we've been offered a great deal of great training that's been free. And so, you accept those trainings as they come along, but we will be spending some of that professional development money and, for teachers to make sure that they have what they need. Right now, going to conferences and a lot of this money is contractual. They're either free or they're really, really inexpensive.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments from any board member? Wow. Okay. I guess we'll move on then. We're down to committee reports. First one, negotiation committee. Is that dealing with the WA? Bill?
Yeah, so, and I can just keep this really simple if you want, just because obviously negotiations. I just made a note on my paper that just said, we received a request from WEA for a contract extension. And that's what the committee's working on right now. And obviously it's active. They're processing that request. They're going to meet again tomorrow night. You know, they'll make a recommendation to the board one way or the other about the right way to go.
Okay, and you're meeting tomorrow.
Correct.
Okay. The school building committee, items 8B. What do we have on that?
And I just clicked this so you can add it
Oh, yeah.
because I've been doing all the talking tonight. But
I've had all kinds of people in and out of here, so it was best to be unmuted. Did you want to report first, Phil, or?
sure.
Okay.
So we've had a couple meetings. We've had a couple meetings since our last meeting. Really, the target right now, we've been going through the data that you went through. The target right now is to meet with the Office of School Construction and Grants and just get some feedback from them. This came about really, it's something that they do. It's that they'll give you some feedback. The committee had asked me to contact them to see if it was okay if we used in our preliminary meeting with them, if we could use our enrollment from a report from 2019. And I emailed it out and I got a phone call right away from Michelle Dixon, who's basically she's on the grant staff. She's basically a step below the director, Costa, of OSCGR. And she just started asking me 1,000 questions. I mean, we were on the phone for 40 minutes. She wanted all the background work that the board had done. And she basically said, please bring this back to the committee. I put a letter together to the committee and just as a recap of our conversation. And it was basically, you know, what's the square footage of your building? How much of your land do you have? How old are they? What's your enrollment look like? It was all of that detail. And so really what's happening is, and we're meeting on this tomorrow morning, is we're going to finalize basically a letter to OSCGR along with a PDF that has 5 or 6 slides on it with the data that they requested. And we're inviting them to come out to Willington to tour our buildings. And from what I understand, typically is either the director comes himself or he'll send a member or 2 of his team. They walk the buildings with a couple, school staff. They get the questions, they take their pictures that they want, they get their answers, and they go back and they meet as their team. And then they would meet with members of the school building committee and say, look, based upon what we see, this is our recommendation. You can take it or leave it, but this is our recommendation. And again, these are the folks that approve the grants. And so one of the things that really stuck with me from my phone conversations was Michelle Dixon was talking about if you build new, you get less. You get 55% reimbursement. But of that reimbursement, very few things are not reimbursable. The majority of the items that you do are reimbursable. If you were to renovate something, she said you have to realize, yes, it's 10% higher. It's a 65% reimbursement rate. However, there are a lot of items that are not reimbursable. So it was a different lens that I hadn't heard that take on it. So I appreciated her saying that just to give me some perspective. But that's really our drive right now is trying to get the meeting with OSCGR to get some feedback from them and get some direction from the committee from there. Last thing I'll say is all of our items now are on the school website. There's a link on the front page of the district portion of the website that has all of the school, and it's very separated from what was. That's now hidden, and it says 2021 School Building Committee, and has all the resource documents there. What I
Okay.
miss, Ann?
And Phil, how do you get to that link? I know a lot of people have asked me about the building committee and what's going on. They don't have any idea of whether it's going to be a new building or renovate or whatever. And is it an easy link to get to on?
Yep, it's willingtonpublicschools.org. willingtonpublicschools.org, and right on the front tab, and actually, you know what I can do here? Hold on one second. So this is the front page of the website, and it says right here, School Building Committee 2021. You click on it, and what we've done is we've just basically made a document container with all the research. People want to know the data, it's here. So any archived information for reference is there. If you want committee information, who's on the committee, information in the Fryer report, land information, obviously that's limited. It's not all there because we don't want to give away
Right, yeah.
what land, but the information is right there, and it's on the front page of our Willington Public Schools website. We will be adding to that, and I'm sure Ann's going to speak to that right now.
Phil, where would someone find the meeting minutes on that website?
So they're not no meeting minutes are. We put only Board of Ed meeting minutes on ours, but
Okay.
because this is a town committee, if you go to the town of Willington, I'm just going to share my screen again.
Okay.
If you go to the town of Willington on the front page and you go to meetings and or minutes and agendas, we have a school building committee for minutes and we have a school building committee for agendas. And if you want to click anything that's there, this is what's 21 and any of the minutes are there.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
And those meetings are also recorded on YouTube on the town official page. Do you want me to show you that real fast too?
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
helpful.
go ahead.
Give me 1 second. So if you type into YouTube, Town of Willington CT official, it'll bring up this search. And so every meeting that is recorded is on here. So if you click on videos, this is where all of the meetings are. And so this happens to be the school building committee meeting right here. Bill Stevens wasn't looking so hot in that video. Because he
The
was,
first time we've seen you without a suit, Phil.
it was, I don't think I had shoes on, Ann. So, but it gives you a sense like this is where people can view the
Yeah.
meetings for any meetings.
So there seems to be plenty of places they can find out, get information.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's good.
one of the things we did too is we formed a subcommittee for communications. And we were brainstorming different ways that we could communicate with the public. And we decided that it would be really important that we not have a lot of give and take, say, on Facebook, so that we would just have a one-way presence that we could announce meetings and things like that. And at that point, we would suggest that people go to the website and read the most current information on the website so that they're getting accurate information. We talked about things like putting something in every Willington wire, so we have an update in there. We're also going, remember our, what is it called? Our frequently asked questions. Do you remember that section we had? We're working on that now, and we're going to try to make that up to date. And Mike McHugh had a great suggestion. He suggested that when people send us an email, that we respond back and say that we will not be responding directly, but where they could find the information, or it might become a question for the frequently asked questions, so that we would then have that question available for anyone who was interested. The other thing we were working on was the RFP, Phil, for our project manager. So I was very excited about that. I feel like we're really moving forward, you know, when things like meeting with the state and that RFP. So it's a wonderful committee. We've kind of left my domain and we're in the construction domain now. And we have a lot of expertise on the committee, which I think is wonderful. So I think we're doing very well. I think we're moving forward.
Good, that's good news. Thank you, Ann. Michelle?
I know that the Board of Education is going to be more involved when we get to the point where we're looking at education specifications. That's not something we would do before September, is it?
It depends, and I think this is why it's so important to meet with OSCGR, is because you spin your wheels. If they're going to steer you in a certain direction, just like they did in Mansfield. I mean, they said, look, we're not going to support you renovating 3 buildings. That's not the right decision. Once we have some direction from them, it's going to be a determination of where to go. If they say, look, you really should be building, we need to find land. We don't have any land right now. That would be the next step. And so that could take some significant time to do. And, you know, really, Michelle, if you were looking at a timeline where everything lined up and you were past because if you went to referendum, you would be at referendum to buy land. And if that didn't pass, it sends a message, right? You wouldn't need ed specs. And so those ed specs are really at a time where, you know, your application's due in June. So I don't see that, you know, you could have some conversations about it, but it's until you know the direction you're going, I don't think it's something that's really needed.
And the application would go a year from June, right, Phil? June of 20.
June of 22.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification.
Right.
So Michelle, if I read you right, you want the board to have some input into the educational items that go into this project.
They have to.
Yeah.
They're the ones that approve. This is the body that it doesn't matter what the school building committee thinks about ed specs. It's this body that develops the education specifications for if any project. If you're going to do a renovation, it's this group. If it's new, it's this group. Obviously, if you status quo, you still do it.
Still do it, yeah. Okay, good question, Michelle. Any other comments? Okay. I don't know if I want to move on here. Okay, let's move on to, where are we? Down to item C, the Finance Committee. This is a committee that has been set up to look into the SGHC. We have to develop a contract with them. And this is a good time to start doing that. We want to make sure we have something in place either this summer, early, first thing next September. And I think we have enough time to do that if we have a few meetings. So we have to, one of the things I'd like to do is to set a date for this, if possible. This is a school-based health center is what we're talking about.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yes, that was the issue. Remember we talked about, it was passed, and we're going to work on that and to make sure that we have something in place. But we have to develop it through our committee, and we have to have a contract with them. They just can't walk in. We have a lot of things that we want in the contract, just as they want some things in there. And I guess, Phil, you've been working on it somewhat, and Marsha has been working on it as well. But we do need, either a letter of agreement with them or a contract. The purposes of the a contract and a vision and description of their services and our expectations. And that will be the area that the committee will be pursuing, and we'll have to do a little research. It's not a simple project, really. It can be very complicated because it's a brand new contract, and we want to make sure that we're protected and that they are as well. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And it will take time. It's just not an instantaneous thing because there are a lot of technical things in the contract that we will have to look into, and the contract has to be agreed to by the whole board anyway. And the committee, I believe, is made up of Michelle. You're on that committee, right? On finance committee.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. And Donna, and I think
Donna, yeah.
and I am.
I'm a little confused about something.
Yes.
I don't
So,
understand.
Phil, we should set a date probably where the committee will meet. And do you have
Sure.
anything to add? You got to add? Anything?
Donna was going to say something. I'm not sure what she was.
I'm a little confused. I don't understand why this is under the finance committee. Isn't there a contract negotiation committee? I just don't understand. I don't quite, I don't get it. If you would enlighten me, please.
It's a good question. So
Well,
go ahead, Herb.
you want to go first, Phil? You probably have more of the answers than I do.
I don't. This is one of those contracts that's it's a little unique because it doesn't typically contract negotiations for us is teachers union or they're the ones that are looking at administrator contracts, where typically when we do finance, they're the ones that are looking at RFP responses or things that are a little more unique. And so Herb and I had a really quick email exchange about what's the right committee to do this. And my question was, is the finance committee the right one to do it? Even though there's no dollar amount tied to it, that's the group. And Herb, I'm not sure how many meetings it's going to take because it's going to be their legal. Once we provide our feedback, it's going to be their legal and our legal. But Donna, that's kind of my response. It is a quirky thing. I wasn't sure which one was the right way to go.
Yeah, it was.
Will
It
they
was a
send
question.
us?
No, it was a question.
Like a
Of
template?
which committee? We thought at first maybe the negotiating committee, but then the finance committee is probably more in a position to do that. Phil said that there's no money involved in it, but actually there is. There are fees that they're going to be paying this actually cost to us in some respect. These space areas, we have to provide heat, keys, telephone services. There are a lot of things that are involved in the financial end of it. And the finance committee is in a better position to determine where the costs are and how much it will cost. And there are a lot of hidden costs too that you don't know about.
Okay, I'm
And
all right with that.
the board is still paying for it. It's nothing is free.
Don, I will tell you that, sorry, Elena, let me just jump in real quick.
Yeah.
Don, I will tell you asked if there was a template. I did hear you say that. They sent us their typical template. And one of the things that Marcia and I did was we went through it and we red inked it based upon the feedback that we knew this board had concerns about. And anywhere where it was general, we cleaned it up and we wrote right in front of it, behavioral health. So there was no question about what this was about. And so, but they took our feedback already and she sent it to her legal team. So it wasn't a back and forth. And so now we just received it back and now it's a chance for, this finance committee to go through it and say, okay, where are we at now? What changes does the board have? The admin team has made their recommendations and added in the descriptive words, so it's very clear what we're talking about, what they can and cannot do. And then it will be up to finance committee to make the recommendation to the full board. And obviously before that full board recommendation, I would want our attorney to have a look at that. And then it would go back to them again.
Okay.
Donna, Michelle and I don't think, Michelle, you've seen the contract.
No.
I
I've not, no.
I haven't seen it, but
Nope.
I mean, a lot of things in there that I would expect to be in there, like shared goals and objectives, probably between the two groups, the expectations, the logistics of what's going to happen. When are they going to be in the building? Are they going to be in the building in the summertime or when we're not there? Things of that kind. There are all kinds of issues that could be raised because this is a brand new area for us. We want them to operate successfully, but we also want to protect our interests.
Herbalina had a question.
I actually got my answer. Thank you.
But a question I have is, in light of the current unknown, as far as when we're going to be past some of the COVID restrictions, when do you anticipate allowing them into the building? Since we're doing everything we can to keep extra people out and keeping the kids in their cohorts, if you now have basically another thing that functions like a nurse's office where you have kids from all over the school or staff from all over the school going into this one area, when do you think it would be prudent?
September 1 next year, Donna.
September 1 of 2022?
No, 2021. Yep. I think what will happen is and this is where the reopening committee will join again. And we're hearing a lot of this, is that the cohorting is going to definitely be lightened. The masking is not going to go away. The social distancing is not going to go away, but we're going to see a lot of school districts. So we are cohorted, we're meaning our kids stay together, they don't move classes, teacher comes to them. A lot of middle school models right now that are larger are finding success with masking and social distancing, and kids are changing classes. And so if we can do that, we can provide a significantly better middle school model. And so we're moving in that direction. We haven't gotten there yet. And I also anticipate that our buildings will be opened up a little bit more next year. I anticipate sports going back off in the fall. Obviously, that's as of today, things can change. But yeah, September of 2021 is when I anticipate that they would have their things in place.
Thank you.
Also, Phil, of course, these are things we'll be discussing at the meeting probably, but my understanding is our expectations are that they're going to be servicing our students at Center School and Hall School. So we're going to have two locations for them.
Correct.
We probably won't spend a whole week at Hall or a whole week at Center, or probably a couple of days here, a couple of days there. My expectation is that they will service our students only.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I know in some schools, they service everyone. In other words, they set up in a school and then people come in from all over. Their clients come in and they're not students, but, people working in the area and children outside. And it's a little different.
I'm not comfortable with that either, Herb. That's going to be in the contract. It depends again on the agency and what they have for space. You get if you've seen the news about some of these vaccination clinics and you've seen this specific organization is one of the go-tos for vaccine clinics. And so some of their locations are really large because they have a medical, a dental, a mental health. They have it all. And the smaller ones are not the ones doing this. And so we're going to write into that contract, you know, who they're servicing, when they're servicing. They can't be pulling outside people in unless it's a family member that is connected to, that needs to be with that child. That's the only time. But all of those things, again, we need to write into the contract, and that's really the point of
It's
that.
not going to be a money-making thing for them because we don't have large numbers of students, which means they'll be in the building once a week or twice a week.
They'll be in Willington 5 days a week, and what they'll do is they'll base their support on demand. So if there's a greater demand, they can increase their level of support. If there's a lower demand, that, you know, they can determine it from there. But they've done this before. They know the number of days.
Oh, I'm sure.
We'll also let them know, like, we believe there's going to be a greater need in the middle school than the elementary. So it might be 3 days, 2 days, but they will, they'll work with us to service, you know, where they're needed.
Also,
Again,
I want to know how our staff is fitting in. Like, our teachers should have some understanding of social and emotional learning, or a social worker.
Oh, absolutely.
What are they going to be doing while the service center is in there? Our special ed people. I mean, it looks like they'll be taking over most of the operation.
They won't. It's separate. So it's additional beyond what's needed. And so that, again, what I talked to Jane, her name is Jane. One of the things that I said was, you know, we need kind of an operations guide. And that operations guide is really for Willington, for our staff, for our families. And again, it's the protection for the board, to say, it's kind of like intervention. If a teacher comes forward and says, you know, my student needs intervention, they don't just snap their fingers and they get intervention. They have to show that they've collected the data, that they've tried multiple interventions, they've changed interventions, it's not worked, they continue to collect data, and then they get an added layer. So maybe they get some support, and then they do the same thing again. If it doesn't work, then it goes to a tier 3, and then maybe a new teacher is involved. All of that happens before you ever get to special education. This is no different. So there's a lot of things that are done at the school level before there's ever a chance for them to get to this agency. But there are, we had an incident, I will tell you, recently, that we could have used them right away. And I guarantee that in this situation, it would be someone that would have been known and would have already had their you know, signatures. Parents already would have had their signatures on that page, because they would want the supports in place for the child. So, but again, I agree. All those protections need to be in place.
I know there's a need for, you know, social and emotional learning in the schools. You know, it's one of the things the state is working on, and, you know, it's a key thing that is being talked up. I don't know whether every student requires it, but as far as their records are concerned, if they get involved in this area, it goes on their permanent record, doesn't it?
It's not anything to do with it.
I know in our school, we keep records and we destroy them after a few years, but I don't know about outside organizations.
Anything that's just like HIPAA, it stays in. They actually require a locked filing cabinet and a locked office, and that's the reason why is that space is to store their records. And it's just like if a child were to move to a different provider, their records would go with them, and they have requirements for on their end as well.
So that record follows them all their life?
Not necessarily, no.
Well, it's got to be somewhere. But anyway, does anyone else have a question they'd like to ask or discussion purposes?
You want me to just have Brenda schedule that?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to do this anytime soon. Like it's gonna, when are you thinking?
When are you thinking?
Well, my tax season ends now, instead of April 15th, May 17th. So if there's something you want me to read or look at so that I at least have had a chance to look at something, the sooner the better. I can't get stuff on Mondays and be prepared for a Tuesday night.
Fair enough. I have the draft contract, so once we pick a date, we just want to pick a date that's far enough out for you. Once we have that date, we can do the agenda, and we can send you the draft tomorrow.
That would be wonderful.
So you send the draft to all the members?
Yeah, I think it goes to the, do you want it to go to the entire board or you just want it to go to the committee?
Just the committee right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can do that.
And then once we've come to some agreement, then everybody can take a look at it, save them from reading it twice.
The committee, the board will get the final draft.
Correct.
But we have a lot of work to do. Now, you want to set a date, Donna? Michelle?
It's gonna be easier if we have Brenda reach out to us
Yeah, that's fine.
rather than doing it now on the meeting time.
We could give her several dates and have her, that we're all in
My
agreement.
my calendar right now is really insane. It's gonna be much easier for me to reply if Brenda reaches out.
I'll have Brenda reach out to her first.
April vacation,
Okay,
April is filled up.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll have Brenda reach out to you first, and then she can text Michelle and Donna, and see.
okay.
Sounds good. And you sent a copy of that document that you're
Yep.
talking?
Absolutely.
Okay. That sounds good. Okay, any other comments? None. Moving to new business. Approve the regular meeting minutes of March 9th. Okay, that's attachment 2.
I move that we approve the minutes of March 9th, 2021.
I seconded.
Elena seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstention.
I abstained.
Who abstained? Donna?
Donna abstained.
Okay. Okay, motion is passed. But one abstention. Okay. The WPS Healthy Food Certification Fill.
Yeah, this is statutory. This requires each district Board of Ed actually to that participates in the National School Lunch Program. You have to certify each year whether the foods that you're selling to students will or will not meet their, the Connecticut nutrition standards. You do this every year. They give you the required motion. So we sent you the required motion as an attachment, but that's basically the information that goes behind it. Everything that we provide to students basically comes through our food service program, and it meets the standard.
Okay, this is a routine thing. Is that every year we have to approve this?
Correct.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this? If so, I'll entertain a motion to accept the health program, health for food certification program.
I move that we accept the Healthy Food Certification Program.
Elena seconded.
I seconded.
Okay. Any discussion to the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Wait,
signify by
I have a question. Do we actually, because it says about the exact language needs to be used, do we have to read that in now, or do we reference
Ugh.
the paragraph?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
okay.
I don't have that right in front of me. Somebody has it out.
Which,
I withdraw my motion, and then Ann can read it.
Okay, motions are withdrawn. We need a new motion, and this is the motion for healthy food offering.
Okay.
Pursuant to CGS section 10-21.5F, the Board of Education or governing authority certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction are not exempted from the Connecticut nutritional standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education and will comply with the Connecticut nutritional standards during the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from the reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups.
may I ask a question?
That's part of it.
Somebody
need a-
second that, so then Donna can ask a question.
I second the motion.
Okay, anyone want me to read that again? All those in favor,
Hold
signify.
on, Donna had a
Wait,
question.
Donna.
But my question is, are we supposed to be doing the other one so that soccer games, school plays, interscholastic debates and events, but not soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team are not? Like, so that when we get back to having plays, if the fundraising team wants to sell cookies and donuts, that they can do that. I want to make sure we're not hurting those groups.
So good question, Donna. So the way I understand this is that if the school is the one selling it, that we must meet the standard. However, we don't sell at events.
But
So
it says fundraising activities on school premises in the first one. The last sentences says any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups. And
Yeah.
that's my concern. Where the other one looks like school plays and interscholastic debates and things like that can do that stuff.
correct. And that's, so if you want the second one to make sure that they're covered, you could do the second item and not the first item. Second motion, not first. Sorry for that confusion. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. How does everybody else feel about it?
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, John. It's a reasonable question. And Phil, do they sell goods like that after the games and stuff?
So I think that the only things that I can come up with are really around the plays, and they sell water bottles, and I think they sell popcorn at the shows.
What about school dances? Because we used to.
I can't tell you the last school dance we've had.
Okay, maybe it was back when I was there.
But there could be one before 2022.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at either way, basically, you're still going to meet the standard. All you're doing is if you go for the second motion, it's providing you basically a waiver to do those things only.
Right.
But then doesn't the first motion, that's related to our school lunch program and breakfast program?
They both are. They
Okay,
all are.
so the second one covers that as well.
Yeah,
Correct.
Okay,
Tracy's muted.
Thank you. Thank you. So it looks like, and I may be wrong about this because I was a little confused about, I thought we were going to vote twice.
That's what I thought.
And when you look above the required healthy food option, it says there's, if you do option 1, the Board of Ed conducts 3 votes. If you do option 2, the Board of Ed conducts 2 votes. We have to vote on more than one of these, no matter what. Is that, am I reading that correctly? In the middle of the page where it says HFC eligibility requirements for the Board of Ed opting to implement it.
That's what I thought also, Tracy. You do
So
that.
we either have to,
one of the 2 options below.
option 1 uses exact language, including this memo. The Board of Ed conducts 3 votes, whether the district will participate in the healthy food option, whether the district will allow food exemptions, and whether the district will allow beverage exemptions. Or option 2, using exact language from this memo, Board of Ed conducts 2 votes, whether the district will participate in the healthy food option and whether the district will allow food and beverage exemptions. So we have to vote at least 2 times, maybe 3.
You know what I'm going to ask you to do, because I just went back and I'm looking at, because what I did was that I looked at last year's and we only voted 1 time.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But what we did was, I think we did the top part and then we read, and it was done by Michelle, read the bottom part, and then voted on all of it together. So if you want, I can table this to get you the right answer.
We have a motion on the table, though. Can't we just vote on that and then go on to the
We can table a motion. Or with,
I mean, this is what last year's. I mean, it's the same. It's literally both motions in one.
yeah,
So it looks like you're voting on 2, and that's what you were saying. I think Laura and Tracy.
Mhm.
So I would say this is exactly what we did last year. So if you want to do that, and then if I need to change something, I can come back next meeting if you want.
okay, why don't you bring it back, Phil?
Well, do you want to vote on it? And then if it's wrong, we can fix it.
So are you saying, Phil, we just need to add more to the motion that has already been, is on the table?
I think it's okay to do it as 2, because you've already got a motion on the table. You vote on what you because you approved all of it last time. So you can approve if you approve the current motion, then someone makes the second motion that's on the bottom part that Donna was reading about with plays. You would pass that and then you'd be set. And what I would do is confirm that that piece that's in there, that we're not missing anything. And this person happens to live in Willington, so.
My last page doesn't include the whole thing because it's option to combine the food and beverage exemptions, but it doesn't have the whole thing. So
I
I
think
don't know
we've only
what.
done the food exemption.
Combined.
Your choice. I'm glad to do whatever you'd like.
So Phil, you're suggesting that we vote on the first one first, then vote on the second one?
Correct. And my suggestion is you pass both of those. And then
Yeah.
if I need to change something, I'll talk to John Fresinelli If we miss something, we need to change something, then we can come back. We have time to do it in the May meeting.
Okay.
If
well,
not, you're all set.
Yeah. Donna, is that okay with you?
That's fine. I just want them to be able to sell something fun at the place.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions? None. Okay. We're ready for the next motion.
Who's got it in front of them?
Who's gonna
I
say-
have it. Would you like for me to read it?
Yeah, do you have a
Okay.
copy?
Yes, I move that we move the following motion. Motion language for food exemptions. The Board of Education or governing authority will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards, provided that the following conditions are met. Number one, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. Number two, the sale is at the location of the event. And number three, the food items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held.
Okay, thank you, Luann. Second?
I
Second.
second.
Elena seconded. Okay. Any
Sorry.
discussion? Everyone knows what we're doing. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Donna, how did you vote?
I voted yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Phil, and you'll take care of this.
Do we need
Okay,
to do
summer,
Or not?
No.
Okay.
okay, item 9C, Superintendent End of the Year Evaluation Planning. We're at that time of the year when we have to evaluate the superintendent of schools, and I know we have a heavy agenda and everything, and we're booked up, but we still have to do this, and probably should set up some meetings, Phil.
The way we did this last 2 years ago was we had a Google survey that everybody was able to fill out on their own time with the questions that we had used. And then the committee took that and kind of integrated everybody's comments so that we had a document at the end. I believe I still have that form on my Google account. So if you're interested, either I can send it to you, Herb, for the format, or you can approve it and let me know if you want me to send it out to everyone and then get the committee back the whatever data comes in.
Okay, I remember that Google, that we worked on that for a while. What is your feeling on that, everyone?
I thought that was quite comprehensive
Mhm.
because it covered all the areas, and then we each had a chance to respond on the survey as well as with comments.
Okay, Tracy?
Yeah, I agree. I thought it, and I liked that we had a little bit of time to work on it individually at our own pace, depending on our schedules, and then come together.
Okay. Elena?
I also think it worked really well.
I'm sorry?
I think it worked really well for that purpose.
Okay,
The one caveat is you have to complete it in one sitting. Don't stop and it'll reset and you'll lose your work. So either write the answers down in a Word document and cut and paste. Learn from experience.
Is there a way to print it out
And
Yes, I can send you a document that's a printout of what the questions are ahead of time, so you know what the questions are.
Why don't you send that out to everyone, Michelle?
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah. And that will get that started. We should finish that by, well, we can go into the summer on that too if we have to. So we have plenty of, but I think it's important.
We need it, we
That we do
probably
it
should have
this
it
year.
done before we do the contract negotiations. Is that this summer?
Yeah,
So just in terms of timing, we need it done by early summer.
yeah.
Just remember, July 1's a new fiscal year, and your superintendent took a 0 last year. And-
Okay, so we need it done before the end of school this year.
And I have typically I have a 3-year contract. I have 1 year left on my contract. So
Gotcha.
So we have 2 months to do that.
Okay. So I will ask for relatively quick, I'll put a date. If I put a date like 3 weeks in there, I know Donna, you've got a real busy time.
But if I have the printout, I can.
Is that okay?
Yeah, if you give me a few weeks and I have a printout so I can do it a little bit of it at a time.
Yep.
And then sit down, I can probably do that.
Okay.
3 weeks.
Okay.
I mean, if you plan to finalize, go into executive session at the end of your meeting in June, that if there's any contract changes, it can take effect July 1.
Excellent.
We're pretty booked up, aren't we? I don't know if I can do it in 3 weeks.
Well, we can make it 4, and then the committee would still have about a month. So if we're going to talk about it at the June meeting, I know you're away, so we'll get as much back in. I'll make it a month. Okay.
Sounds good.
For me too.
Okay, anything else on that front? Okay. We're back to present to speak. Do we have anyone out in the audience, Phil, that has a question or something you want to address? I know we got some listening to us.
Yeah, anybody that's not on camera right now, you are able to unmute yourself if you just want to unmute yourself. If you have anything present to speak. Once. Go twice. There you go, Herb. It's all you.
Herb, did you forget old business, number 10?
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much for calling that to my attention. Yeah, all business. You should have said point of order.
Oh, okay.
Point of order would bring, look, you're jumping around on the agenda. Okay, we're back. Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Federal summer retreat.
If you want to make that fast, I will just tell you that not everyone responded to Brenda. If you have not responded to Brenda, if you can do that by the end of the day tomorrow, then that's really all we need, because we can't schedule the retreat until we have dates from everyone. And we did not get dates from everyone. Anne has her hand up, Herb.
Ann?
Phil, what time of day were we thinking for that?
I'm flexible.
Evenings or there's a school building committee meeting on the 16th. So I just wondered if.
I think it was the 14th.
Typically that's because people are working that's during the evening time.
Okay.
That was on the 14th, right?
I think the dates we were looking at was 14, 15, 16. We're trying to get availability, if I'm correct.
Okay. Okay, moving on. We took care of all business. No, we're present to speak. We took care of. We're back to comments. This is an opportunity for the board to say a few words. I will start off, if you don't mind. I thought the monologue was very good. I'll remember that for some time. It was well done. I enjoyed it very much. We had a heavy agenda tonight. We got through it probably about, I don't know what time it is, but not too bad. We did pretty good. We do have a lot on our plate, Phil. I know you do too. We are very busy. I don't know how you take a dog walk going along the river there with all the things that you're doing, but it's been a heavy load for everyone, I'm sure. The staff, students, and administration, and the board too. Our meetings really are picking up. As Michelle pointed out, she's every day is booked up with something, and I look at my calendar, it's the same way. So you're all doing a great job, though. Also for the retirees, Phil, we're sorry to see them go, but we want to thank them for all of the work and effort that they put in and for their service in the Willington Public Schools. And also, I know you've been busy, so take care of yourself. And if you need anyone for any committee, just call any one of the board members and they'll be happy to fill in. But you've got a heavy plate. I guess that's about it. Tracy, would you like to start off tonight?
Sure.
You're always the last one. We're
Yeah.
not gonna get you. For the next few meetings, you're first.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on now.
Okay, gotta give me a second because you caught me off guard. No, I appreciate, I wish Nico well and appreciate he's been there for a long time, I think through my kids, the time my kids were there. So we appreciate his dedication to our community and wish him well and as he moves on. And thank you to the, I guess it's Zoe and Ronnie. And welcome to our new social worker for Center School, Emily. I'm excited that we are moving forward with the community-based health network and to bring some more services to our community. I'm happy to see that happening. And I loved the monologue. My husband actually heard it from upstairs and said, "What are you listening to?" So I thought that was quite a different pace for the Board of Ed meetings. And thank you to all the efforts of all our teachers and staff and everyone. We've made it much farther, I think, than many of us thought we might have last August through the school year. So I wish the best for continuing on the same path till the end of the school year.
Thank you, Tracy. Donna, we can't see you, but we can hear you.
I appreciate your patience. I also want to echo appreciating Lucas's monologue, and I think great things are in store for that young man. And I do also appreciate Mr. Phillips and all he does to encourage that greatness to come out. And once again, the news has made me more appreciative of what goes on in our town. And I want to thank the teachers for the extra efforts that they've been putting in, and the parents for the extra efforts that they've been putting in, and for our students who are also putting in a lot of extra effort. And I'm hoping that we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and that things can open up a bit so that we can get together in person and see each other's smiling faces. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Elena?
Well, I would like to join with everyone with congratulations to Lucas to his wonderful performance, very impressive. But also I would like to say that in spite of whatever difficulties we had through the last year, we are doing really well. If to take into consideration the fact that many schools in the world, not just in our country, are still closed, we stood open through it all. So I think I'm really happy, and I think everyone is doing great job on top of their abilities. So everyone, thank you, including the board members too. Thank you, everyone. And of course, Phil Stevens, thank you so much. That's all.
Thank you, Elena, for your comments. Ann?
I want to second what Elena just said. We really are a model, thanks to Phil and his staff that we've been open since day one. We haven't had to go hybrid and back and forth. So thanks to Phil and his staff and the teachers who have really worked so hard. And thank you too for them working so hard on those 2 virtual days. I was on the other side of the computer and with the kids at home, and I just can't imagine, if you weren't really feeling up to par, but still, doing that. So I appreciate all of their efforts. I've known Nico since he was I believe he helped out in the after school program too. I think in addition to being a custodian. So I want to thank him for all of his service and creativity, and wish him well in his next job. And thank you to Zoe and Ronnie also. And welcome to Emily. It'll be great to have a new social worker on board. And I too am really glad to hear that the school-based behavioral health network is falling into place. So thank you to the Finance Committee for making that happen. So thank you all.
Thank you, Ann. Michelle?
I can just say ditto to what Ann had to say. Thank you for covering it all. Thank you everyone for being quick and efficient tonight. And I think this is a new record for our most full but efficient meeting in quite some time. So thank you. And please stay safe, everyone. We still got a little ways to go before we're all vaccinated.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Laura? I like the scenery in back there.
Switched from Scotland to Ireland. Had to mix it up.
Beautiful country.
Well, there's certainly nothing left to say. That's the thing about going last, right? And we all want to go home, but I do have to just shout out to Nico. I do remember when Nico came to Hall, and I worked with Nico until the day that I left, and phenomenal. It's definitely our loss, but congratulations to him on his new position. And certainly, I don't know Zoe and Ronnie, but wish them well and welcome to Emily and everything else that everybody else has said, because I don't have to repeat everything. But truly, our little school, our little district does amazing things. And that's from our faculty, our staff, and from our leadership. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura, for your comments. Thank you, Phil. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Ann seconded.
Or let Laura.
I should have said Laura.
Laura
Okay.
seconded, yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. All. Thank you.